Hello guys, Termax here and welcome back to another Borderlands video. Today we're going to be diving deep into the top 5 forgotten weapons of Borderlands 2. Now Borderlands 2 has an abundance of very iconic, legendary, unique, pearlescence, and even seraph weapons from the series, but what about those weapons that we all thought about once or twice and kind of just forgotten about? Well, the first one we're going to be going over is the Blockhead shotgun. Now for many this may come as a surprise, and that is why it is in the number 5 spot. Borderlands 2 specifically has so many powerful shotguns that are not locked to the fire elements that I feel like the Blockhead was more of a iconic gimmick than a actual viable damage dealing weapon. Very rarely did I see anyone use a Blockhead when it came to OP8 or even OP10 for that matter, but then again, OP10 was a unbalanced mess. But even then, the Blockhead has to be one of my favorite weapons in the entire series. Seeing the gas projectiles from Minecraft shooting like that is honestly amazing, and it's in the formation of a crafting table recipe. If you did not know that, now you know. That is why it is a 3x3 grid, just like the Minecraft crafting table. And honestly, the only reason you don't see this gun used more often is simply no one really visits the Caustic Caverns anymore unless you're farming for tubbies, and not a lot of people actually know about the Minecraft Easter egg. The Minecraft Easter egg in Caustic Caverns, in my humbled opinion, is one of the most iconic Easter eggs in gaming history, and I feel like this was a little bit overshadowed by the longbow sniper rifle, which made it look like you were shooting a bow and arrow from Minecraft with the same projectiles and all. So really the fate of the Blockhead was due to other shotguns overperforming, and the drop rates for this shotgun were not great to begin with, so not a lot of people obtained it in the first place. Number 4 on the list is going to be a seraph pistol by the name of the Infection. Now the Infection has a very high damage over time and very high fire rate for a Maliwan pistol, and it is a seraph weapon, so it is pretty hard to obtain for the average player and is more centric towards the end game loot pool. But the unfortunate thing about this pistol is it doesn't really keep up when it comes to the end game, even with slag. I had noticed that with most Axton builds, this gun can be made semi-viable in the right circumstances, but even with Maya with all of her elemental damage, I still see this pistol struggle in comparison to other pistols that are not locked behind the corrosive element. You're going to see a running trend in this video that a lot of these weapons are simply underperforming, but not only underperforming, just downright forgotten. The goal of this video is to bring back maybe a memory or two for you guys to be like, hey, I remember that weapon when I accidentally looked at it for a few minutes or got it to drop when I was level 22. And honestly, the way I feel with the Infection is it could have been so much more, but the Borderlands 2 scaling honestly ruined it, because as a concept, a damage over time corrosive pistol is pretty nice. Even though the teapot from the Tiny Tina mission is pretty damn similar, this was just a amplified version of the teapot in my personal opinion. For number 3, we have the Boss Stomper. Now, if you have no idea what this assault rifle is, you're not alone. Do you remember when you head back to the Arid Nexus in Borderlands 1, but you're in Borderlands 2, and you get to experience the original starting area from the first Borderlands game? Then you also remember when you killed one of the skags there, and it dropped a optional mission where you had to kill a bunch of skags in the area and pick up a bunch of weapon parts so you could eventually build a weapon. Most people did not do this quest. The excitement of being in that area just made people not want to collect the weapons, so this weapon flew under a lot of people's radars. But if you did that quest and turned it in, you got the Boss Stomper. Other than being a great Jacobs assault rifle with a above average critical hit damage multiplier, there's not really much going for it other than the amount of critical hit damage it does deal. And in the right hands, that critical hit damage is pretty significant if you're running a critical hit damage 0, but for any other Vault Hunter, I would stray away from it because there's not really much usability within it. But for a weapon I feel like more players would have known about or brought to their attention, I feel like this weapon could have had its place in the game if the damage were just buffed a little bit, because that critical hit damage is pretty damn good. Now for number 2, we got the Teeth of Terra. Now this is obtained from, you guessed it, Terra. This shotgun unfortunately suffers from the same fate as the Blockhead, where it is locked to the fire element and pretty difficult to obtain. But not only that, unlike the Blockhead, this weapon has a very sporadic teeth biting pattern of bullets, making it borderline unusable unless you get the right range down, similar to the Interfacer shotgun, just a lot worse. If anything, I think the Interfacer is a perfect comparison on how a weapon like this can be usable, because the Interfacer is just the Teeth of Terra, but the guy they told you not to worry about. This gun is pretty fun to use in its own right, but I do believe that for a weapon like this, it may have been better suited for something like a SMG firing in this pattern, because the damage does not make up for this pattern, and honestly, if you're using Boron Zero, even then, I don't think this is worth your time. But I did see a lot of Krieg players during the Hellborn Fire Krieg days actually use this weapon early on, because a sporadic firing pattern allowed you to burn a clump of psychos by just shooting once or twice, because the projectiles did spread out enough compared to other shotguns, and you didn't have to waste rocket launcher ammo to burn everything, or a flame of the Firehawk shield. And for the Borderlands fans out there that don't know, the Teeth of Terramorphous is just a small part to the entire Terramorphous set. Terramorphous could also drop Terramorphous's blood, which is a relic, the Breath of Terramorphous, which is a grenade, the Teeth of Terramorphous, which of course is the shotgun, and then the Hide of Terramorphous, which is a shield. And for the number one slot for the most forgotten weapon in Borderlands 2 is going to be the Commin. Now, the Commin was one of those weapons where you got it early game if you were lucky, and you were like, wow, this thing is really cool for a blue unique, until you finally use it and realize it was outclassed by even the most similar of purple SMGs, which was very unfortunate. Now, the red text on this weapon just means it is exclusively shock, and when you run with this weapon, a animated lightning effect will take place. To obtain this weapon, you would have to kill Assassin Watts. Even though it's W-O-T, it is a play on words because wattage, electricity, lightning, you get the gist of everything, which had a 30% chance to drop from him when you are doing the mission Assassinate the Assassins, which can be obtained from the Sanctuary bounty board. This weapon overall is actually really fun to use. I almost look at this weapon like a worse version of the bitch SMG. Honestly, if this had the critical hit damage of the bitch, I think it would be a lot more competitive with its damage, but honestly, it's very weird how Borderlands implements their blue rarity weapons, because we have things like the Sandhawk that are very insane, and then you look over to something like the Comrin and you wonder what were they thinking, because there's a lot of great blue unique weapons in Borderlands 2 that I feel like could have used a lot more love and been used a lot more frequently. But that is my personal list for the top 5 most forgotten weapons in Borderlands 2. If I miss anything, let me know in the comments down below, or let me know your personal most forgotten weapon in Borderlands 2. But if you guys have any other ideas for top 5 videos on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like on it, as it does spread out my content to more people in the Borderlands community. I also do have a series on the channel by the name of the Borderlands Retrospective. If you're a big fan of the Borderlands series and you want to relive some nostalgia while learning some things about weapons and gear, that is a series for you. But that is it for me, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you all later.